Welcome to Startup Insider. I'm Vin Narayanan, and this bearded gentleman, of course, is Andy Gordon. In this show, we're talking to someone who knows firsthand just how incredibly difficult it is to create a new marketplace, and that's the founder and CEO of Tradefox, Chris Yerbey. Tradefox is a terrific startup that's trying to make operating in the scrap metal market just a little safer and more profitable for everyone involved. Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
We're happy to have you. Now, you're coming to us from Amsterdam, right?
That's right. Yeah. Little late hours in the office at Amsterdam
Late
today.
hours in the office in Amsterdam. All right, let's start with what Tradefox is, and then we'll get into Amsterdam. So, all right, so what exactly is Tradefox?
Well, Tradefox is a platform that connects businesses around the world that deal in recyclables. So we provide business intelligence on companies and essentially rate companies based on their trustworthiness and reliability as trading partners.
So, where did you come up with the idea?
I've been in the recycling industry for 23 years now. And I've worked as a consultant for many years, but the idea came from my period in import-export. I worked in the export of steel scrap metal. And I witnessed a lot of problems within the global trade of recyclables during that 6 years that I ran that trading company. We lost a lot of money to fraud or to just unscrupulous business practices in general. But the thing was, it wasn't just us. Literally, as my network grew, I met more and more people that were also losing money, all the time. So what I realized was, wow, there's a big problem here. We need to fix it. There must be a tech solution. Out of that kind of personal pain and struggle, came the idea to start Tradefox.
Well, the scrap metal business sounds a lot to me like the casino business I used to be in, which has on one end very scrupulous and really good operators, and then on the other end, some really shady characters, and trying to sort through who's what and make the right connections with the right people and making sure you do business with the right people is a large part of doing business in the scrap metal business the same way it is in the casino business.
100%. Yeah, it's true. I've been working in this industry, as I mentioned, for quite a long time, and I've met a lot of really great people. And, the majority of people that work in the global trade of recyclables are very honest. But at times, when markets change, when there's temptation because of competition with other scrap yards that are cheating on quality, even some of the most reputable people bend the rules quite a bit. So there are losses that come out of that, but kind of to your point, the biggest concern that we've always had are the absolute cheaters, the con artists of this business. There are not many of them, but when they strike, tens of millions of dollars can be lost easily in 2 or 3 months from dozens of companies. So that creates a lot of fear in the market.
I mean, Chris, you've taken on a huge challenge, haven't you? Because it's not only the business practices which you're seeking to change, but it's really the whole culture of the market space, right? This is almost in the DNA of the global scrap market to sort of, cut corners here and there and everything like that. So was there a lot of pushback when you sort of came up with your technology solution? And do you think that, now, a couple of years have gone by, you think it's really, starting to make an impact on the market as a whole? Are you seeing your imprint actually making a difference in the market?
Absolutely. It is finally starting to take hold. We've been working on this project for quite a while. I definitely encountered lots of resistance. There's still a reasonably kind of large minority of people that don't want anything like this because it increases the transparency of the reputations of companies around the world. And people that have made and companies that have made great money and great profits in this industry have learned to make money in an intransparent market. And so therefore there is actual still resistance to it. But the good news is there is a quickly growing, now almost what I consider a majority of people that see that change is inevitable. The only way forward is transparency. and they understand. They see so many examples nowadays from other platforms. So, I get a lot of people saying, "Hey, just had a call with a guy just the other day. It's like, I really was not really interested in what you guys are doing, but after I've been thinking about it, I've started to realize that this is kind of the future, and either I need to be with it or I'm just going to get left behind." So that's kind of the change that we've been seeing in the last 2 years, especially.
So tell us, Chris. Excuse me.
yeah,
Go,
before you get
go,
into the
go.
question, Eddie,
Yeah.
so how does the
Yeah.
Tradefox system work, and how does it bring transparency to the scrap business?
Okay. So what we do is we compile all the information that we can on businesses that trade in recyclables around the world. So we've got a database now of over 118,000 companies. That's growing. We're going to probably double that this year. So there's a lot of businesses that are involved in recyclables. We merge information into those to the profiles we create from the data that we have on businesses. From imports and exports. So we have partnerships with some shipping companies. We have relationships with customs agencies. And so all of that data of who's trading what, where, when, how often, that all goes into our system as well. And finally, probably the most important piece of this is we've now grown to 3,500 members in our platform. And those members are continuously pushing in information about the reputations of companies that they know of in the market, either companies they've traded with or companies that they've heard about or that they know. So we take all the information, provide as much information as possible so people can make informed decisions. But we also have a really kind of handy scoring algorithm that analyzes all the data that we have to answer the question: is this company a trustworthy and reliable trading partner? That's a question that no other type of credit report asks, and that's something that we answer with our product. So it gives people an idea of who they can trust and who they should be cautious with, and who they should stay completely away from.
That sounds like a great system, Chris. It really requires a lot of thought because of the nature of some of the companies. I imagine they've been trying to shortchange their buyers or customers or suppliers, and I guess you've had to do a lot of hard thinking of how can people who participate in your system game the system. How can I get a higher score than I deserve, or what can I? I'm sure you've thought a lot about that. So, what are some of the safeguards that you've put into your system to prevent people from sort of gaming the system?
Yeah, so it's definitely something that we always have to keep in the forefront of our minds as we're building product and building the way that the product works. We look at we try to analyze information when we get feedback from customers or from members of our network. And we've looked at patterns. We see people that rate companies kind of routinely in a very negative light. They give them a 1 out of 5 stars, for example. We look at these types of ratings. We also look at the very high ratings, the 5-star ratings. And we look at what is the possible relationship between these companies. Could they be competitors? That's a very big concern for us. Are people asking people outside the industry to rate them, like buddies, basically, just to give them a rating so they can boost their score. We definitely look at that. We essentially look at how well we know the information source on an individual basis. So essentially, we trust the information coming from some people more than others, and that list is continuously being revised, and the rankings are continuously adjusting based on the information we have on the individuals and the companies.
Yeah, you've created, an interesting two-sided marketplace, right? So you've got an idea of the challenges that go into it. There are a lot of other startups that are coming across trying to create two-sided marketplaces as well. What unique challenges did you have to overcome in creating this marketplace that you see other startups that aren't quite getting it right? And it's got nothing to do with recyclables or anything like that, but just the challenges that created that two-sided marketplace.
With any platform, you're constantly confronted with the chicken and egg problem, right? So we deal with it all the time. I don't know specifically, I can't really speak to other startups that aren't getting that right per se. But I can definitely tell you that it's something that we're always trying to figure out, like how can we push one side in order to get the other side, and then as the other side grows, we push it to get it's back and forth basically. So it's been something we've been working on now for a number of years. So it's second nature to us now. We're always looking at how can we ratchet that system up from both sides, one by one, bit by bit.
Yeah, I know. We know one of the things you want to start doing or have started doing is partnering with insurance companies. Go ahead and a little
Yeah.
bit and talk about what the partnerships look like and why you want to do this.
Yeah, so this is the holy grail for us basically because a lot of people wouldn't know this, but in the global trade of anything, recyclables, our industry, there is insurance for shipments. There's insurance for loss during transit. There's insurance available for problems with companies that don't pay their invoice or go bankrupt or insolvent, right? And that's the normal insurance policies that you see out there today in global trade, but they do not, very importantly, do not cover fraud. They do not cover a canceled contract because market conditions have changed. They don't cover issues with uncollectible quality claims or failure to ship. And so the discussions that we're having with actually one of the largest insurance companies in the world, and they're based right here in Amsterdam, we're talking to them about creating a policy which will cover all these uninsurable risks. And the reason they haven't been insurable in the past is simply because there's no data that exists on how companies are behaving in these particular situations. There's lots of data on banking and how companies pay their bills, but even the cheaters can pay their bills quite well. So that's not a good indication. So what we do is that we're actually compiling the information on the behaviors of companies and how they trade, and that will be then something that insurance companies can use to underwrite policies to cover the rest of the risks that are not covered currently.
That's a real game changer, Christopher, for companies in the scrap recycling world to be able to get insurance. How do you think you're seeing light at the end of the tunnel and coming to some kind of arrangement with this or another large global insurance company?
We're really on a right track with the company here. The good news is they're looking for innovative startups where they can work with them and provide some new insurance coverage. They have already worked with another a platform in a different unrelated industry. So they've already they know kind of how to approach this. So we're not just the ones trying to get them to do something for the first time. Luckily, they've been quite satisfied with the platform they work with now, and now they're looking at us as the new opportunity.
Yeah, another thing that we know that you're thinking about moving into sort of software as a service area where you help provide shipping quotes and a booking engine in addition to your proprietary safe trading system. How is that plan going out? Where are you in that process?
So we have a number of kind of projects on the drawing board, and at the end product that we will see in hopefully say 3 to 5 years would be then essentially a trust platform where you can find out which companies are trustworthy and reliable and which ones aren't, but also a marketplace of sorts where companies can not only find each other, but they can list offers and demands. And they would then also be able to buy insurance through our platform to cover the trades themselves. And the end goal for us is just to be able to point, click, and ship $250,000 worth of recyclables around the world without ever having to fly to a conference to meet somebody in a foreign country, without ever having to try to build a relationship, kind of the old-fashioned way, allowing people just to do what they do best, which typically is as run their business and not to hassle about the problems with dealing with trading partners that are mischievous.
All right, so you're raising now to help get to that goal. You're on WeFunder at a $7 million valuation. And a $200 minimum investment as I go to the glasses so I can see the numbers. How's the raise going?
It's going well. We're almost at 200K right now. We're going to go for the $500,000 raise, which we've set up, and that gives. I think we have until about August to finish that out. Our goal is if we can, with any sometime before August, raise to 500,000, then we're basically by that point believing that we'll be at a break even financially because our sales are taking off quite nicely. So we're looking at that additional income, or sorry, the additional money from the investment to just supplement our cash flow.
Sure. And Chris, what is your planned use of proceeds? What will you do with the money that you're raising on WeFinder?
So this round, we're putting most of it into the commercial side of the business. We're focusing on selling the product. So it's took us quite a while to build this product. There's so many features. It has a lot of. We had a merger of information from Dun& Bradstreet. So the product took a while to create. Now it's there and it's very strong. We're getting great feedback from our industry professionals that are using the product. They're really loving what we're doing. So the goal is right now is to discover the scalable sales model for our business, and then when we get that, and we're pretty much on that right now, so I think we have it. The next thing is to start hiring more and more salespeople to make it to grow the business, because at this point we have more or less kind of all the data that we need to have to create a great product, so we can take on hundreds of customers and satisfy them. So we're going to plow most of that money in the commercial side to build up the sales and marketing. That's the goal.
You said sales are taking off. Where are you in terms of a recurring revenue?
So we are, so we're still pretty new at this because we had quite a setback last year. A couple different initiatives didn't work out on the sales side. So essentially, we've kicked it off in earnest just this year in January. So we're just getting started. But I'll just give you an example. We had kind of our best 3 days at the end of January, and we signed up 20 new users in just 3 days. So it's kind of crazy because we're getting great feedback from it. So we're really inspired. But yeah, we still have some work to do to actually get it up to where we can get anywhere close to our recurring revenue. We need about 200 members to cover our break-even point.
And how many members are you at right now?
So we're about 50 at this point right here. So we're about a quarter of the way to our goal.
All right. No, that makes sense. Just want to go back to one other set of questions I had here, which was, I mean, this has the potential, Chris, to go far beyond, the global recyclability. I mean, global recycling. I mean, global recyclables. Much easier for you to say than me. But it has the potential to go far beyond that. So, what are your plans? I mean, I see where you're going 5 years out, but what are your plans in terms of expanding beyond where you're at now, the industry you're at now, into a much larger platform that can handle a lot of different sectors?
Well, so during the period of time when I was running my trading company, actually in the beginning, the first year of that trading company, my partner and I were working on, we're basically trying to examine all the global trade markets out there and figure out which one we wanted to call our home. We certainly, we settled on the metal scrap business, but in the process, we brokered sugar, we brokered rawhides, other commodities that had nothing to do with the scrap business. The interesting thing is we learned early on that the problems that exist in the recycling industry are not unique. In fact, they're pretty much are problems with all industrial raw materials, agricultural products, and even energy products. So our plan is to focus on the recycling industry, to make sure that we've got a model that works and it scales out. And then as we create our own revenue to scale the business out, then we want to branch out into other verticals. And our total target for now, as we see it, is the global trade of raw materials and recyclables. So that's pretty much where we're headed, which is trillions of dollars of trade.
Oh, well, trillions of dollars. How large are these markets?
To be honest, I don't have an exact answer for how large those other markets are, but I can tell you that the recycling market itself, the metal scrap is $250 billion by itself. If you add in plastics and other types of recyclables, it's almost $500 billion every year in global trade.
Those are huge markets.
Yeah.
Now, on your trading platform or on your platform itself, do you collect any sorts of data that you might be able to monetize in the future?
Well, yes, certainly. That's kind of the name of the game, right? The more data that you have, the more you can try to find other avenues for it. So, of course, I guess now we're bringing in data from people in the market and redistributing that, under a subscription agreement to others, right? So that's one thing. But as we move into the insurance side and we start actually being involved in transactions as they're happening in real time, we have some very interesting data possibilities there because we'll be able to confidentially obtain the information on products, where they're moving to, what prices they're being sold at exactly. And that information is hugely valuable. We envision being able to turn that into heat maps where we can show trade lanes that are shifting around in real time, pricing that's changing so people can find their target markets easily. That's just an example of what we can do with the data that we get from just that insurance side of the
Yeah, it
business.
really sounds like the possibilities are endless, right? You should be able to tell if a particular market is overpriced in what's going on, or where there's a supply bottleneck. Or I could see, yeah. I mean, you can go in so many directions. I think your challenge is just to choose which directions will be, in terms of monetization, makes the most sense to go into.
Yeah, that's a veritable treasure trove of
Yeah,
data that you're going to be able to
yeah.
access in the future, which is really cool. One question I promised we would get to in the beginning that we haven't circled back around to is why Amsterdam?
Well, my wife is Dutch, bottom line. So I moved here 10 years ago, actually, almost 10 years ago. February the 2nd was the date that we moved here. We met in Atlanta. We moved here for her job, and I also was good for my trading company at the time. So I was already fully here for a number of years before I actually started Tradefox. And so definitely a Dutch-centered organization. We set up as a U.S. Company, as a holding company to access the financial markets in the U.S. to be able to obtain the capital we needed to fund the business. But in Amsterdam, we really received some great benefits of having great quality work done by professionals that charge whose salaries are way lower than in other areas. So it's a really great startup community here, just in general. So it turned out to be a really, really great thing that we actually moved over here.
Amsterdam's
Yeah,
a terrific city, and
yeah.
it's good that you've got access to good talent at lower prices and English-speaking talent for that matter,
Yeah.
which is tremendously helpful. You started business as Scrap Connect, and you changed your name to Tradefox. What were the driving factors behind that change?
Right. So when we began our sales initiative in about March of last year, uh, we started looking into this and realizing that, of course, we've always known that our market is bigger than the recycling world. The label Scrap Connection it obviously it pigeonholes us into the scrap world. And we see that as we get this product market fit and we start to scale out the business, we're going to be investing a lot of money in building a name, a brand. Basically, we're going to be, getting people. The word of mouth is going to start to take off, and it's better to have a name that's a bit more, applicable to other industries than Scrap Connection. So hence the reason why we changed to Tradefox, a more general name and which can easily expand out as a brand across other verticals quite easily.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Now, not to dwell on any pain, but you mentioned a few minutes ago that you had some initiatives last year that didn't quite work out as planned. What didn't work out, and what lessons did you draw from that?
Gosh, yeah, it was a tough year last year on the commercial side. We had a great year development wise, but yeah, we had some missteps, unfortunately, and this is the nature of the startup world. I'm constantly trying different approaches out, and you never know what's going to work because you're inventing something completely new that no one's done before. You try to follow examples of other companies. We essentially, I think the biggest kind of failure that we had in 2019 was that we settled on the idea that we would use a call center agents within India to massively like just make calls all around all around the world to members of our system, to the free members, and also to companies that we would pick up from our relationship with one of our data partners. It seemed we investigated it quite a lot. We researched the company. We got great references of them. There's some really great call center companies in India. However, the problem is with this particular group was the people that sell the service were very sharp, super well educated, and also had great, kind of neutral accents. The people they hired were really problematic. They just did not have the quality level. So it took us, we invested a lot of time in investigating that opportunity and then rolling it out and then trying it. So, we lost a good 4 months there of development, of commercial development, just off of that one kind of misguided kind of idea.
Yeah, you won't be the first startup that stumbles over an Indian call center. You won't be the last startup that stumbles over an Indian call center. I mean, I know startups I've worked on, we've debated whether or not to use developers from India or call centers from India or a variety of things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's just hard to tell which is going to be which.
Chris, the silver lining here, of course, is that, a lot of the lessons that you've learned, and it's impossible not to learn lessons, is that if you're successful, you're going to have competitors crop up to challenge you, and they're going to have to learn the same lessons, and they're going to have the some missteps as well. So this is sort of the nature of the beast. So maybe it makes your competitive edge, a little stronger. The fact that it's really, it's not an easy business to figure out, but that's, that's what makes founders, the bravest, entrepreneurs in the world. They have to do all these. There's a saying that there's no such thing as as a new idea. No, founders they're reinventing everything for the first time, or a lot when they try to disrupt the industry.
And more importantly, Chris, was only a 4-month mistake. There are ventures where you get people that get married to each other, then they're stuck together for a year and a half, and they can't get out, and it's not working.
Yeah, true. I mean, I will say, I mean, we've made our fair share of mistakes along the way, but I think the secret to our longevity and how we've stayed at it for as long as we have is that we're very frugal with the way we spend our money, and we're very cautious about the rate at which we're growing and moving. So even our development, you could say you could build the product we have if you knew exactly how it should look. You could build it within a year. It shouldn't take 2 years. But we have a lower tech budget. We go slow. We figure out mistakes and problems, and we adjust as we go without just plowing through and building the wrong thing all the way and then having to trash everything. So that's kind of one of the things that I think that works in our advantage, is that we're not burning money up too quickly.
I mean, as we sort of wrap this up, Chris, what do you want investors to know about Tradefox right now, where you are now, and where you're going to be moving in the future?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, we really want to create a great impact on the world, to basically streamline the supply chain for recyclables. And there's an environmental story there as well, which inspires us, and it kind of really is something that always is in the back of our mind. But we would love to have investors that would be interested in seeing making money with a company like ours, but also a company that's changing the world and creating something good for the environment. As we simplify the process of trading recyclables, more money is available for the processing, sorting, and recovery side of the business. That means more demand for materials that are going into landfills. That means we're closing landfills. So we need the money to actually continue this development and to bring this to fruition. And I would just love to have as many people that can identify with that goal and want to be a part of it.
Andy, any final questions for Chris?
Well, I just have to, give you props for having one of the, more ambitious visions that I've come across among startup founders. Very, very, encompassing vision, and they're not easy to execute. So, I think despite the couple of setbacks, I think they've reset. You're seeing the beginning of hockey stick growth. You're on this side of it. So when you buy shares on this side of hockey stick growth before it really makes its steep incline, this is where you get the best deal for a company. And Tradefox has a very reasonable valuation. So if you believe in the vision, you think Chris is a good executioner as a businessman and entrepreneur. I think he brings a lot to the plate. Then this has a lot of upside, this opportunity. So I just want to bring that to everybody's attention.
Yeah, the other thing I want to bring to people's attention is the type of industry that Chris is working in there's a need for this solution. There's a need for this market. I've worked in a similar industry. I get it. I mean, one of the companies I worked with actually tried to create up a two-sided marketplace, and it worked to a small degree, but we had to give up the project eventually. So I mean, I get what Chris is going through, and he's absolutely doing it the right way. So if you believe conceptually in the market that needs to be addressed, the need for a two-sided market, and the fact that Chris is capable of executing, you should definitely invest. I mean, this is an ambitious company, an ambitious startup run by an ambitious person, and 100% worth it. And the environmental play here is terrific too. Chris, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right, that's it for this edition of Startup Insider. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on another show.
Thank you.